He's very handsome. Dr. Irwin Redlenner joins us now. MSNBC medical expert. Dr. Irwin Redlenner.
Here he became Dr. Doom.
Dr. Irwin Redlenner is the founding director of the National Center for Disaster Preparedness and senior research scholar.
Dr. Doom.
Hey, Doc, how about that show last night? That's a medical term.
Yeah.
It's like a fecal sample of debates.
I don't have those buttons, but yeah, it's absolutely startling. You know, it's like Trump is there, he's not there, but the lying continues full force.
Yes.
And the hypocrisy and the stupidity.
Thank you for pointing out on Twitter. You said DeSantis bragged about not shutting down his state during a pandemic, but 32 states had better COVID survival rates than Florida, and the state ranked 32nd in the U.S. in math scores among tested eighth graders. The man's self-congratulatory arrogance is truly cringeworthy. Thank you for just that one fact check.
Yeah. No, it was amazing to me that there's no humility. There's no recognition of truth, either directly or subtly, and I find it just incredible that he's what do you call the second runner? Not the front runner, but that the runner-up. What is he?
Yeah, DeSantis, right.
And then I saw a lot of reviews this morning, Steph, where Vivek Ramaswamy was getting quote-unquote rave reviews, a outright liar, a climate denier.
Yeah.
And not one of these people said one word about Maui or the victims or climate change other than to deny climate change. Really, it was just amazing to me.
Yeah. I think DeSantis took a shot at Biden over Maui. And, as you said, after absurd, politically driven Republican criticism of Biden's trip to Maui, not one of the Republican debaters mentioned a word about the unprecedented disaster, the role of climate change, or the persistent suffering of so many people. Breathtaking hypocrisy. I mean, I guess you're right. We shouldn't be surprised.
We shouldn't be surprised. And I don't know what this reflects about our country or reinforces. But, with or without Trump, it was a pathetic display. And like you, Nikki Haley looked like a heroine in this. It was incredible. It was like, you don't agree with her policies, but her way of presenting herself.
Yeah.
And talking about the issues was a whole different category.
Well, and at least on the side of Ukraine and democracy and understands that Putin's a thug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was hard to know what to make of it.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that Christie was as muted as he was. He would have done better, I think, if Trump was on stage with him. But there you go.
Yeah, you mean to be apparently a more energetic head to be like Ramaswamy to win the Republican debate now. Anyway, so by the way, speaking of, I just thought for you, one of the most despicable moments was as you said, Ron DeSantis bragging about not shutting down during a pandemic. And his just, anti-science, anti-vax, whatever. I'm looking at, hang on, a bunch of things. Priola, is that what it's called? Pyrola, the new COVID variant?
Yeah.
Public health officials around the world say they're keeping an eye on the new COVID variant that has surfaced in 4 countries. It has a lot of mutations that make it distinctly different from previous strains of the virus. On Wednesday, the CDC said this new lineage may be even more adept than previous variants at infecting people who already had COVID or have been vaccinated. I just feel like we're in the same recurring nightmare, right?
Well, we've been talking about this a long time, Steph, that this is not over. COVID, people just trying to wish it out of existence, and it's fantasy land here, and we have to be grown up about this. But with these Republicans on stage, it was like, you descended into a bad version of Disneyland.
Yeah.
Use a subject that's dear to the heart of Ron DeSantis, but they don't know what they're talking about. They are denying something in climate. They're denying a lot about COVID, and it's a disservice to the country because we are going to be having, as we talked about, a surge of something very different in in the fall, which
Yeah.
is around the corner, and in the winter, and
And you
we
know,
have to be ready for it.
yeah, and you know what kills me is your words echo in my ears that you were saying how many years ago on this show that this is always going to be a race between the variants, the virus and the variants and the vaccine. And the fact is we still didn't get enough people vaccinated. That's why we keep having these variants. Then people stop masking. I mean, I was reading this tweet. Japan warned the world in July, but we ignored them. Now the media is priming us for death. Alarmingly, 38.3% of them had no or only light symptoms immediately before they died, indicating that some of them saw their conditions deteriorate rather suddenly. It's from Japan Times. Another tweet on COVID. The new variant is scary. Employees in the local nursing home my mom was in for rehab started wearing their masks about a week ago due to an increase in local infection. This is in southern Indiana, just west of Louisville. Yeah, I was reading another story yesterday about, people masking up again. I mean, it's just, I don't know what else to call it but a recurring nightmare that we're bringing on ourselves, right?
Well, we certainly are, and the intentionality of refusing to recognize the truth is it's really hard to explain. And I think we're going to have the same conversation also about this new variant and the surge in the fall, which is that what is it that doctors have to say? If we say, you could die from this, you need to take care of yourself, you need to mask appropriately, you need to get the new vaccine that comes out. It's not a medical question. It's a political question, a communication challenge that we have not yet mastered.
Yeah.
And really, it's words from people like you, Stephanie, and messages from media that talk about it differently than doctors are capable of talking about it.
Right. But the
we're-
bottom line is in the race between the vaccines and the variants, the variants are winning because
They
we
are
didn't
winning.
get enough people
They
vaccinated
continue
quickly
to
enough. Yeah.
Right. As long as people are getting their information from right-wing extremists and social media, doctors, not that they don't have a chance. We're overwhelmed. We're awash with untruths that seem to be capturing people's imagination, and we're going to pay a price for this. And people are going to pay a price who shouldn't be paying a price. People
Yeah.
who are trying to take care of themselves, but are now going to be, unfortunately, subject to catching this new variant, whether they've had COVID or COVID vaccines before. This is going to be a dangerous time for a lot of people, unfortunately.
Judith in St. Paul sends us this. Hey, Dr. Redlenner, I've been told that seniors and children should be getting pneumonia vaccine. I heard there's one vaccine, PCV13, that targets COVID-specific pneumonia and even COVID transmission, but it doesn't seem to be available. Can you comment?
Look for availability in the next 6 weeks.
Okay.
And I think we'll be seeing different formulations of new vaccines that will really help, suppress the outbreak that we're going to inevitably be getting. So unfortunately, there's nothing to do right now about vaccines. They're just not ready. They're not approved new vaccines yet, and but it's coming, and that's unfortunately what we have to do. But in the meantime, let's say there's an outbreak in your community,
Yeah.
then you need to get those masks out of the drawer and wear them when you're in public spaces. You need to avoid big crowds. You need to maybe think about the big party that you're planning to have with, for celebrating whatever it might be. And
Oops. Erasmus. Cancel that,
Yeah.
Jody.
Sorry.
It's, that's the problem. Trump gets arrested so much. It's, party
have all these parties.
Party never stops around here. Before we go, I always think of you, in your role of the Center for Disaster Preparedness. You just talked about Maui. You said how many children may be among the victims who perished in the devastating Maui fires. For those who survive massive destruction, grief, and psychological trauma will define the aftermath. Many questions now about failures to prevent this tragedy and lack of warning sirens, etc. In your, sort of handling disasters all over the world, you've obviously been over in Ukraine helping. I think once again, we're always confronted with this. The right wing just seems to politicize everything now. I mean, I look at Chris Christie up there, and I'm like, at least he worked with Obama when Hurricane Sandy hit, out your way. But it's just that party seems to be gone. They look at everything as a political football.
idiotic criticism about hugging Obama from this really, stupid guy, Vivek Ramaswamy, who said, "You're going to give me a hug?" Whatever kind of smarmy thing
Yeah.
he's saying is just intolerable. And this is not going to go away, even if Trump's in, a high security prison, which
Yeah.
hopefully he'll be tweeting from there or whatever he does. But yeah, it's a sad time.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, I think I think the Republicans have maybe gone a step too far, and
Yeah.
they may be blustering now, but they won't be in November of 24 at the polls.
Yeah, I
So,
know. I heard a lot of people say Biden was the big winner last night. I mean,
yeah,
anyway. All right, Doc, thanks so much as always. Stay safe out there. Love you.
thank you.
Goodbye.
Love you too.
19 minutes after.